Are you able to see the shared screen, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. Om Gnana-timirandasya Gnana-jana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Parijana Sahitam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini. Hare Krishna, thank you all. Welcome for the morning reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. We will glorify Srimad Bhagavatam in its Mangalacharana prayers. Then we will move on to the text. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye Sushrushro Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat Shrunvatam Swakatha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhrutsatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamalo Bhadayaschaye Chetayetai Anavidham Stitam Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vidyate Hridaya Krandis Chidyante Sarva Samshayah Kshiyante Hasya Karmani Drushta Evatmanishwari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Again, thank you all devotees for joining, and please bless and pray for me so that I'll speak Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular verse, and I will be able to remember also this verse at least today, throughout the day. And as a service, I would like to offer this facilitation of the reading. Today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Text 12, Chapter 12, Text 28. Jignasitatma yathatyo munirvyasa sutadasa hitvedam nripagangayam yasti adhan kuto bhayam. One more time. Jignasitatma yathartyo munirvyasa sutadasa hitvedam nripagangayam yastyadhana kuto bhayam. One more time. Jignasitatma yathartyo munirvyasa sutadasa hitvedam nripagangayam yastyadattha kuto bhayam. Synonyms or word translations. Jignasita, having inquired of. Atma yatharthya, right knowledge of one's own self. Mune, from the learned philosopher. Vyasa Suta, the son of Vyasa. Asau, he. Hitva, quitting. Idam, this material attachment. Nripa, O king. Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges. Yasyati, will go. Adha, directly. Akutta bhayam, the life of fearlessness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. I'll read one more time. After inquiring about proper self-knowledge from the son of Vyasadeva, who will be a great philosopher, he will renounce all material attachment and achieve a life of fearlessness. Purport. Material knowledge means ignorance of the knowledge of one's own self. Philosophy means to seek after the right knowledge of one's own self, or the knowledge of self-realization. Without self-realization, philosophy is dry speculation or waste of time and energy. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge of one's own self. And by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. This material world is fearfulness. Its prisoners are always fearful, as with a prison house. In the prison house, no one can violate the jail rules and regulations. And violating the rules means another term for extension of prison life. Similarly, we in this material existence are always fearful. This fearfulness is called anxiety. Everyone in the material life, in all species and varieties of life, is full of anxieties, either by breaking or without breaking in the laws of nature. Liberation or mukti means getting relief from these constant anxieties. This is possible only when the anxiety is changed to the devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the chance to change the quality of anxiety from matter to spirit. This is done in the association of learned philosophers like the self-realized Sukadeva Goswami, the great son of Sri Vyasadeva. Maharaj Parikshit, after receiving warning of his death, took advantage of this opportunity by associating with Sukadeva Goswami and achieve the desired result. There is a sort of imitation of this reciting and hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam by professional men, and their foolish audience thinks that they will get free from clutches of material attachment and attain the life of fearlessness. Such imitative hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is a caricature only, and one should not be misled by such a performance of Bhagavatam Saptha undertaken by ridiculous greedy fellows to maintain an establishment of material enjoyment. So, just looking back for the context of this text. So, after Parikshit Maharaj took birth, Yudhishthira Maharaj invited Brahmanas to do Jatakarma, which is a name-giving ceremony. So during that ceremony, the tradition is that Brahmanas also predict his future. In fact, Yudhishthira Maharaj himself asks, would he represent the previous kings? He will behave like a previous kings, like that. So then Brahmanas give his forecast, and it's based on the Vedic knowledge. Actually, it's almost kind of lost right now, in the sense there are very few genuine people who know it, but otherwise it's a genuine science, which is called Jyotisha. Right? In fact, I was hearing a class by ISKCON senior devotee, and I'm not remembering his name right now. He was telling Vedas are a big body of knowledge, and it has 6 limbs we can consider. So one of the limb is Jyotisha, and Jyotisha as a limb, like with our eyes we see how perceive the world. Similarly, for Vedas, Jyotisha is a kind of eyes to see the future, right? So they use this Shastra based on the stars and locations and the time and even the cycles, which yuga cycles and all. So they can predict the person's predispositions or the baggage that he is carrying from the previous life, guna and karma. So, and also what are the opportunities that are given to him and how he is going to use them opportunities, right? So these are all they will predict. In fact, they predicted so far very well about the prediction of because remind you, this section is not yet done, right? This is only forecast that sages, Brahmanas are telling, and Sutta Goswami is explaining to. Of course, we are hearing after the facts, that means it's already past, and we are hearing the predictions in the past, what Brahmanas did, right? So that's why we know the story, but apparently they will not know. Right? It's as if they don't know. So, and at the end of the predictions, usually unscrupulous people who claim as they know Jyotisha, they will only try to bring up only the so-called good points, right? In fact, people are looking for that, and they just give that, and they will stop at that. But here, they're actually predicting even until the point of death and how he is going to die, right? That's what we learned yesterday. So they are not, in that sense, they are not afraid to tell the truth. So that's one way to understand they are actually genuinely trying to predict his future. And also it's not so great news because it's an untimely death for Parikshit Maharaj. He's quite young at that time, actually, when he left, when he was cursed. So it's not a really good news, right? So, but still Brahmanas talk whatever they see based on the Jyotisha predictions. So that's about the predictions. And in fact, text 27 and 28 are very closely related, because 27 directly gives the what happens at the end, that Parikshit Maharaj get cursed by a Brahmana son, and then he leaves uh, all the attachment, and basically he perfects his life, right? That's what the message of the last verse. And this particular verse, how did he able to leave all the attachments and get that perfection? So that what did he do to do that, right? So that's what Brahmanas are predicting, how he is going to achieve that perfection. So the way it is done is by the short answer is Srimad Bhagavatam, right? In fact, that is why this particular incident is so popular, and people talk about also so much, and there are imitating people who do Bhagavat Sapta, the so-called Bhagavat Sapta. So Parishit Maharaj heard Bhagavatam for 7 days from Sukadeva Goswami, son of Vyasadeva. He is addressed here as Vyasa Sudha, right? So he is the son of Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami. So from him he heard, and what did he heard? He heard Jignasitatma Yathartha, like it's a knowledge about self-realization, right? And so interestingly, Prabhupada, in fact, here he defines both the terminologies, both material knowledge and philosophical knowledge, in a negative sense. That means what it is not, right? So he's talking material knowledge means ignorance of the ignorance of the knowledge of one's own self, right? So usually material knowledge means knowledge about the matter, but Prabhupada is saying uh, usually when we learn knowledge about the matter, we don't learn about matter about the self. So that's what he is defining here. And also here, philosophy means to seek after the right knowledge of one's own self, or the knowledge of the self-realization. In fact, philosophy has a broader definition, and self-realization is a significant part of it. In fact, Prabhupada clarifies next sentence: without self-realization, philosophy is dry speculation or waste of time and energy. Because in universities they study philosophy and things like that, religion, but still they miss out the real point, the self-realization aspect. So so Prabhupada is claiming that self-realization is the most important. In fact, that is what uh, Parishit Maharaj has learned at the end of his life, but it has a broader sense, but ultimately it is a self-realization, right? So, and what is the means of self-realization? Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is a beauty, and that's Prabhupada directly claims that he doesn't hide it all. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge of one's own self, and by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. So this is the essence of today's verse, this particular statement. How do we get that self-realization? Because Parishit Maharaj inquired about self-realization, and Sukadeva Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right knowledge. So it contains the self-realization. And by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can get free from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. So here, few aspects. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada spends last sentence of this paragraph and also the next paragraph saying that how to hear and whom to hear from, right? Particularly the source has to be right, and he must be representative of Sukadeva Goswami, who is representing Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva is composed Srimad Bhagavatam. So that means we have to listen in a disciple succession, and from a person who is completely dedicated his life to Krishna, and then only you will be able to actually get the essence of it. Otherwise, we can hear, we can get purification, but really it's tough to get the result of, as it mentioned here, detachment from material attachment and uh, fearlessness, right? So that's about hearing and source from where to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And then next aspect is the result, right? And our philosophy is also as a Krishna consciousness, broadly three categories it is divided into, uh, and the last part is the prayojana aspect of it, right? The prayojana means the result of practicing. Sambandha is the first one, knowing. Sambandha is basically knowledge of self, self-realization. And then Abhidheya is how do we do it? That is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And what is the uh, result of it? Result is mentioned here, material detachment from material attachment and enter into the kingdom of fearlessness. Basically, Vaikuntha. There is no other planets apart where there is fearlessness. It's a spiritual world, essentially. So these two are the prayojana aspect, and I will spend some time understanding um, uh, detachment from material attachment and kingdom of fearlessness. So Prabhupada defines detachment in many places, saying that it's actually the attachment to the Lord and his devotees, right? So why he I think why he defines like this is because that is how we get the detachment from the matter. Otherwise, by default, the conditioned living entity is already attached to the matter. He is already absorbed in the matter. Now, how he will get separated from that material consciousness, right? So that is why when one is experiencing a positive taste or a much higher, superior taste of feeling the taste of connecting with Krishna and his devotees, then gradually you will be able to give up the lower taste of material attachment. So that's how Prabhupada puts attaining detachment is through getting attached to Supreme Lord and devotees. And Srimad Bhagavatam directly facilitates it. How? Because Srimad Bhagavatam narrates pastimes of the Lord, and it narrates the pastimes of the devotees and their lives and different qualities, right? Name, fame, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord and his devotees. So this becomes, and when we hear and when we meditate and we get attached to the Lord and to the devotees of the Lord, and that's how we get detachment from the material attachment. So uh, that's the aspect about the material detachment. And the next aspect is the fearlessness. I'll spend some time here and then I think we can conclude after that. Uh, so to understand fearlessness, first we have to understand what is that we are experiencing. We are experiencing not the fearlessness at this point of time, it's actually fearfulness. Prabhupada says this fearfulness is called anxiety. And he says material world is fearfulness. Right? That means uh, fear. I was trying to understand this word little more in depth. Uh, why this fearfulness? Fearfulness is an emotion right? Are a feeling that we constant, at least it's a kind of a noise, right? When there is a static in a recording or some kind of broadcast, when there is a static noise, there is a background noise going on all the time. So we cannot hear the message, whatever is we are supposed to hear from the recording properly. There is always some background noise or disturbances going on. So this fearfulness is a kind of an emotion which by default, it's kind of a background noise. It's already, even though we may not sometimes recognize, sometimes it becomes prominent, but it's always there as a background noise, right? So this emotion predominates our existence, particularly for a conditioned source. It's for by default. In fact, many decisions in their life, they all governed by this particular aspect of fearfulness. They experience this fearfulness, including me. Uh, uh, right. So, and it's very important. So if this particular emotion is filled up in our life for so much, so maybe it's worthwhile to understand this particular emotion and see how we can overcome it. Because negative feelings are actually, research has been shown that negative feelings eventually, uh, because feeling is at the heart level, subtle, and at our psyche, and it may not directly implicate our bodily level, but eventually when we keep that emotion for longer times, eventually it will get to our body also, and it will cause anxiety, distress, right, sadness, and cancer. Actually, I was hearing one of the main reasons of uh, getting disease, and specifically the cancer, is anxiety, and which is basically the primary emotion. The background emotion is fearfulness. So eventually it get caught up to the body level also. So it's worthwhile to understand this particular emotion and know how to become fearlessness, right? So there is another description in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, 37, where this particular verse talks about what is the reason behind this fear. The Sanskrit verse is bhayam. Bhayam dvitiyabhinivesha tasyat ishadapeta sya viparyayo smritihi tanmayayato buddha bachetam bhakyaika esham guru devata. So I'll read the translation. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and as his very life and soul. Wow. So, the solution and the cause of the fear is given here. Maybe if you want to understand a little more, like the living entity, when he comes to the material world, by default, the false ego, right, captures the soul. So that is the first level of covering happens, right? So, and that false ego covering happens under the agency of Maya. So Maya, or the material Prakriti, covers us through her one of the element, and then with that covering, we don't see. That means we forget. We forget our relationship with the Lord, and we shall forget our constitutional position with the Lord. So that means now we are on our own. So we have to struggle for existence on our own. So the burden we are actually taking, there is a English word, I forget that one. It's not really a burden, but we are actually carrying it. There is an English phrase for it, I forgot. Useless burden or something like that. So unnecessarily we are carrying that burden, and the burden of fearfulness is part of that bigger burden, right? That's one of the predominant emotion. And how to overcome that? So now the how overcoming part is trying to again get back into that relationship. And how we will do that? Through devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of Bonafide Spiritual Master. And when we approach Bonafide Spiritual Master, what he will tell? He will speak about Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is a connection back again. So we'll, that's what the today's verse is. The Bhagavatam is the means to overcome this particular negative emotion that always pervades our psyche. So hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is such an important thing. That's why. And yeah. Yeah. So the verse that we have learned, chapter 11, is also gives a clue, because I was also hearing another reading from another book, that these feelings and emotions are real, because some scientific studies claim feelings are not real. They're manifestation of some chemical reactions. They will just leave it at that level. But there are some studies, even though they may not completely connect it with the spiritual science or the reality in that sense, but they claim they are real, and these feelings are coming from the heart. Now, what is the indication? And the feeling comes, they're also compared in that particular studies, they're compared to the some kind of a signals. When we have an instrument to measure the state of our body, so feelings are like a outcome, the readings which are coming from that instrument. Like when we are going on a road, we have lights, right? Red light, green light, yellow light. So they indicate some message, right? So similarly, feelings are like that. They give some indication. Okay, there is some issue. They may not give complete diagnosis, but they will tell, yes, there is a problem. So when we are going, there is a red light, then we know, okay, there is something, I have to stop here, I cannot go further. Similarly, there is a green light, means yes, everything is clear, I can go. So similarly, feelings are like those measures which gives us, yes, there is some issue. I have to pause and I have to know what is the deeper problem, why these are feelings or our emotions are coming. Either positive emotions or negative emotions. That there is some deeper cause behind these feelings, right? So for the fear, so what is the cause? The cause that we have learned in the previous text, that we have lost our connection with the Supreme Lord and we forgot that connection. So the soul, this is the undeniable reality of the soul, that when the soul loses the connection with the Lord, right? So that is the need. So that need is what we are understanding from Srimad Bhagavatam. So soul has a need, that means we are souls, so we have a need. So the need is the connection with the Supreme Self or Supreme Soul or the Krishna, the connection with Krishna. So in fact, in that hierarchy, this particular need is in the topmost, because that particular need is the most essential need for the living entity, even though there are other lower needs, but that is at the topmost, right? And this need is directly we get indication, if not for this Bhagavatam and disciplic execution, we will never be able to understand what is the ultimate need, right? And the ultimate need of a soul is, I think Radhanath Maharaj put it this way. I heard in one of his lectures. Uh, Everyone is looking for a need, the need for love and to be loved, right? He wants to love others and he wants to be loved, right? Essentially, and if we extend this concept, whom we have to love and whom we want love from. So ultimately, this is from the Krishna. So we need Krishna connection. So that particular need, if that need, we are not fulfilled with that need, then as a side effect, as a bulb, this indicator comes, fear is always popping up. Okay, you are not meeting your need, right? It is actually a very good indication that there is an issue and we have to focus on that issue. So, and now the solution, as we said here, devotional service of the Lord and guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. And Prabhupada goes a little more into this particular solution, and we see how this works, right? So, and in fact, essentially, he brings up Rupa Goswami's Yukta Vairagya principle, how he brings up this principle. Let us see. I will read it again here. Liberation or mukti means getting relief from these constant anxieties, right? And this is possible only when the anxiety is changed to the devotional service of the Lord. So it's interesting here. This is possible only when the anxiety is changed to the devotional service of the Lord. And he further goes, Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the chance to change the quality of anxiety from matter to spirit. So this is the key for that Yukta Vairagya principle. Of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is the means, and that means that is the solution. But Srimad Bhagavatam helps us convert our anxiety, the material anxiety, into spiritual anxiety. So we know this concept that for every material thing that we exist here, including feelings, everything, needs and subtle things or gross things, there is a counterpart in the spiritual world, right? So that means there is, I don't know exactly what is the counterpart of the spirit or the of the fearfulness in the spiritual world, why we are experiencing here. But there is something. So that's why Prabhupada is saying we have to move or use that existing condition of fearfulness or anxiety to spiritual level, right? How is that done? This is done in association of a learned philosopher like self-realized Sukadeva Goswami, the great son of Sri Vyasadeva. So, of course, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we will get an ability, a unique ability to use this particular anxiety that we are going through in this material world. We can use that anxiety to benefit of our ourself, to use it for the spiritual cause, right? So what are the examples we can see right now? Like I was thinking Premananda Mataji actually, because even though she could at her age, she's practically from the work duties and all, she's kind of retired, but she's taking much more anxiety than probably any of us here could think of. Why is she taking so much anxiety, so much stress, right? So she's dovetailing, my understanding is she's dovetailing the material aspects of fear and anxiety to the service of the Lord, right? So that is what I understand here, what Prabhupada is telling, dovetailing the same thing. And this ability comes, the dovetailing ability comes by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we will be able to use this to the service of the Lord. Like here, building the community, this Naperville community. So it needs a lot of efforts. So Mataji is our pillar, one of the pillars behind building this community, right? Including the temple and further. So that's one example. And similarly, one step back, if we go back, uh, existing spiritual masters in not only spiritual, even other senior practitioners of bhakti in our movement, they always travel, they always take so many anxieties, right? So again, they're using the anxiety for spiritual cause. And how they get the ability? From Srimad Bhagavatam, right? And again, going one more step back, Srila Prabhupada and his uh, uh, going through hardships and anxiety is like a pinnacle. And in near history, it's like a supermost example, right? uh, why he's going through those anxieties just to spread this message, that is one aspect. And how he's getting that ability to use that anxiety in the spiritual cause, upliftment of the entire world practically, right? So to start a worldwide movement, again, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why I think Prabhupada is mentioning here, using the anxiety for converting from matter to spirit uh, is the way to overcome this fearlessness. And this comes from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Parishit Maharaj is perfect example. In fact, at the end, after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he says to Sukadeva Goswami, now I am free. uh, I don't bother when Takshika comes, whoever comes, however my death is, it doesn't matter for me, because I'm completely fixed my mind. I reminded of my relationship with the Lord, and I'm fixed on the relationship with the Lord. I'm always remembering Him. Now I am fearless. And that is a very high example coming from the scripture. And I will give one more example, a more contemporary and very realistic, and then we will conclude about this fearlessness. I was hearing a class, and in that this example was mentioned of Chandramauli Maharaj. His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj, he kind of leads the efforts, the preaching in the prisons. So he was preaching in one of the prisons, and they preach obviously Bhakti Yoga, chanting. Obviously, they will introduce Prabhupada books, and they give Bhagavad Gita specifically to prisons. And this one of the prison, there is a convict, and he was a very severe convict. It means he was given a death punishment. That means he must have done some abominable. I don't know all the details. So this particular person somehow or the other took an interest in reading this particular Bhagavad Gita of Srila Prabhupada, and he read it, and he became interested, and he was chanting the way Maharaj said. Then on the day of the capital punishment, the final day came. Looks like the practice is they will give kind of electric shock to kill the person during the punishment. So he was brought to the chair and everything, and they will ask the last wish and things like that, right? So, and when the gods who has executed him later on confessed to Maharaj, saying that this is the most wonderful death that we have ever experienced, and we also want to go through that kind of death. Because they were telling, even from the bringing from him to the cell to the place where they execute, and he was so happy, so happy. And when he was all the time telling, I am not this body, I am soul. And in fact, he was specifically mentioning Prabhupada's purport, where he says, when somebody does abominable activity, it is better to get executed in this life, so that we will have a better life next time. And in fact, if he is remembering the Lord during death, there is no even better life. Means better material life. It's like a better, best life, spiritual life, right? So that's what he was remembering, and he was telling to the gods, yes, this is good. I'm very happy that I will get a better life, right? So that is means he has got the fearlessness, even though he is in the material world, apparently going through a severe punishment, but he was fearlessness. He was fearless. So we can see now how powerful Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, or Srila Prabhupada books, that it can change us from fearful to fearless. Ultimately, death is our test. That's when we should be able to feel fearlessness by remembering the Lord and the teachings of the Lord, right? So I want to conclude with this contemporary example, and we will just uh, summarize. We discussed about the key thing that Srimad Bhagavatam is the means of self-realization. That's what Sukadeva Goswami was teaching to Parikshit Maharaj when Parikshit Maharaj inquired. And because of this act of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Parikshit Maharaj achieved or attained uh, complete detachment from the matter and complete attachment to the Lord, and ultimately fearlessness, and he entered Vaikuntha planets, the planets of fearlessness. So with that, I want to conclude, and I would invite the devotees to please uh, give your thoughts or any other examples or questions which can enlighten this discussion, or any other mistakes that I committed. Please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. It was a very, very well thought out class, Prabhu, and thank you very much. The anatomy of fear and how to overcome, and very well laid out, and thank you very much. The examples you selected were very super, and I would like to add our Mahati Gopi Mataji's passing, also an example of a glorious example of a devotees, saying farewell to this world. I mean, she was very attached to Krishna, and we all saw that how her mental makeup was at the time. Thank you very much, Prabhu. It's very wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji, for encouraging, and please pray for me so that at least I will remember this, at least for today, this particular teaching from Bhagavatam.
No, you have all got it. Imbibe the spirit of it, definitely.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, no, I agree with Sandhya Mataji. It was very nice, thoughtful, as Prabhu regarding the fearlessness. Right, you talked about the feelings. Right, they're real, and there is a need behind it, and how this, pointing to the Prabhupada's point here in the purport. Right, so. I was when you are reading that thing. Even without breaking the laws of the nature, right? There is an anxiety. So I was, that I was thinking, even with that, so there is an anxiety by living this within this material world.
Yeah.
So, and the example you gave, what was the example you gave before this Maharaj one? Something else you mentioned.
You mean the static disturbance in the recordings?
Yeah, analogy, that analogy. So it was connecting. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Actually, it was very thought out, thoughtful lecture, thoughtful class. So, you connected very nicely all the points and how the fearlessness and detachment.
Thank you, Prabhu. Please pray for me. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, this is Jayant. Thanks for the wonderful lecture. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I mean, very apt topic of fear, with this current situation of, what the world is going through, where, like there's anxiety because there's, at least for the last 1 year, right? Like what to do, what not to do. And, things changing almost every week. Sometimes it's good in the US, then things are worse in India, and then the next month sounds better here. That there's too much fluctuation. So a very apt topic. Any suggestions from your side? Just how anything that changed in your spiritual practice this last 1 year that has helped overcome, the anxiety from what's going on around us.
Thank you, Prabhu. Actually, I totally missed this aspect of 1 year, for last 1 year of anxious life that we have been going through. And it's not yet done. And you have brought out very timely now. I missed it totally. And to be honest, probably if you ask me the barometer of, because I said this is an instrument, right? Our body is kind of, psyche is kind of instrument, and feelings are like measurements coming, like a blood pressure and all, how we measure. So if you ask me the anxiety meter for me, my meter is like full. So I am not a right person to give any practical. In fact, the only thing which protected me again comes back to here is Srimad Bhagavatam. And fortunately, Maharaj was here, and somehow or the other, I was engaged in those services. So only that is the time actually I forget totally about the external world. As soon as come back again, I'm occupied with fear. Particularly, there are many things going on in the life. Not only actually this pandemic, but I have another issue also going on in the life, immigration. So it's really stressful, right? But as Prabhupada is mentioning here, I think Srimad Bhagavatam is the means, and this has been confirmed from all our disciple section actually, including Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the ultimate means. Of course, that is not the only thing. There is a chanting, and we have a holistic process, and hearing Bhagavatam is the key component. So I can only say that much. And we read once in a week. So Bhagavatam, not once in a week, sorry, few days in a week. So that is the time which helps me anticipating for that. At least that particular moment, I'll be able to, yes, focus and read. So that way I'm out of these anxious feelings. Like sometimes I go through the feelings, even in the reading also. But yeah. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, do you have a Srimad Bhagavatam set in your house? The book Srimad Bhagavatam? Jain Prabhu?
Yeah, I may have one or two, not the entire set.
I would strongly encourage Prabhu to have it and check yourself how different things are going after taking the Bhagavatam set. And please consider Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah. You can contact Vamsidhari Prabhu or Chandrupa Mataji.
Yeah, I know him, Prabhu. So I think I can.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay, if nothing else, we will conclude here. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।